Thank you for taking the time to watch the Neighborhood Improvement Grant webinar. My name is Madeline Hinkfist. I'm the Neighborhood Resources Coordinator. So the goal is for you to walk away from this webinar understanding the Neighborhood Improvement Grant process. So I'm going to go over the agenda. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Neighborhood Resources Program. Then I'm going to give you an overview about the Neighborhood Improvement Grant, going through the details, the key dates, reimbursement, application, project ideas, and then questions. So to start, the Neighborhood Resources Program was started in spring of 2020. It was started to support building strong and inclusive neighborhoods throughout Englewood. We would like neighbors to feel like they're connected to one another, to their neighborhood, to local government, and to Englewood. And the program's goal really is to create opportunities to connect residents. So here are some of the programs the Neighborhood Resources program offers. The first is the Neighborhood Improvement Grant. That is what we're going to go through today. The next is the Get to Know Your Neighbor Grant, and neighborhood groups can apply for up to $100, $300, or $500 to host a neighborhood activity. These activities typically take place on one day, and that money can be used for food, entertainment, utensils, anything like that. And past events that were supported by this grant have been block parties, happy hours, picnics, and ice cream or food from a food truck. We have the Welcome to the Neighborhood bags, where neighbors are welcome to come and pick up a bag from City Hall and bring it to their new neighbor. That bag is full of city information, some cool swag and other things like that. The fourth program is the Snow Buddies program, and that pairs volunteers who are able to shovel with individuals in Englewood that need help clearing the snow on snowy days. Then we have the Block Party trailer, and that has everything you need to throw a block party. It's stocked with all the party essentials like tables, chairs, yard games, and more, and you can reserve that on the weekends during the summer. Then new this year is the Backyard Movie Kit. And the Backyard Movie Kit has everything you need to throw a movie night with your neighbors and friends. The kit includes speakers, a projector, a screen, and more. And then that equipment is also available during the summer. And both the trailer and the movie kit do require a small deposit, fully refundable deposit. So they are free for the community to use as long as everything is returned. Then we have a mediation program and a neighborhood group leader network, where neighborhood group leaders get together quarterly to brainstorm and discuss what is going on in their neighborhood. Okay, so now we're going to go through the Neighborhood Improvement Grant. So neighborhood groups can apply for up to $3,000. If you don't need that full $3,000, that is totally okay. If you just need $2,000 to complete the project, please just indicate that in your application. I also should add that this is a new grant this year for the neighborhood program. So this is the first year that we are doing it. So when filling out your application and thinking about projects, what we would like to see in the application are grant projects that will celebrate your neighborhood's unique character, engage skills and knowledge from neighbors, improve quality of life for your neighbors, enhance neighborhood pride and identity, improve the physical condition of a neighborhood. And then there's also a 25% neighborhood grant match that's required, and I will go through that in a later slide. So here's a copy of the timeline. So on April 17th, all the grant applications are due. The week of May 9th, grant recipients will be notified. Grant projects can begin on May 30th, and then on December 2nd, the final grant report is due. So who is eligible and what is eligible for this grant? So projects that are intended to implement new improvements to a neighborhood. We really want to see those projects. The projects also must be located within the city of Englewood and cannot be on private property for the primary benefit of the owner. So if your neighborhood wanted to build a free little library and install that in a neighbor's yard, front yard, that is great. That is not for the primary benefit of the homeowner. So we would just need written consent that they are okay with that going there. And then grant projects must be publicly accessible, and projects must be completed and maintained by the neighborhood. Okay, so now we're going to go through the grant match. So applicants must provide a match equal to 25% of the amount requested. So 15% of that can be in the form of volunteer time from the residents that live in the neighborhood. And volunteer hours are valued at $25 an hour. And then 10% could be additional volunteer time, or it could be donated services, monetary contributions, or activities that improve the neighborhood. And examples of these activities include setting up a neighborhood website, hosting a neighborhood social, and distributing a neighborhood newsletter. There are also other activities. These are just some examples. So I'm going to go through a grant match example. So say this made up neighborhood called Sunshine Neighborhood was awarded or approved for $2,000 worth of grant money. So that 25% grant match that is required is $500. And so there's multiple ways to receive that 25% grant match. The first way that they could do it is they could have all the neighbors volunteer and have at least 20 volunteer hours between them, because volunteer hours are valued at $25 an hour. If you multiply that by 20 hours, that's going to be $500. Or there would be a minimum requirement of 12 volunteer hours, because that's the 15% volunteer requirement. And then they could plan a neighborhood activity. In this case, they're going to plan a neighborhood block party, and that would be the other 10% for that neighborhood activity. Application requirements. So when you submit your application, these are some of the things that we are looking for. We would like to see a complete application, a completed budget form, a project maintenance plan, if that's needed, a property owner approval if it's not on city property, photos, and then a project location or map of the project area. That will just give staff a good idea of where you are going to do the project, and anything else that you are looking at. Okay, so here is a copy of the neighborhood improvement grant budget form. This you can find on the website, and it is actually pretty straightforward. So on this left side, you're going to see part 1. And this will ask you to list the items and services that the grant funds are needed for. This is what you are looking to spend your grant money on. So the first section is materials and equipment. So this could be paint, trees, benches, anything like that. And then the second section is going to be services. So that would be like graphic design. If you have to bring in an outside contractor or an instructor to do something or rent some equipment, that would be under services. And then part 2 is going to ask you to specify that grant match. So under volunteer hours, you are going to list a description of the tasks and what individuals would be doing, number of hours, and then what that value is. And then any donated materials, monetary contributions, or neighborhood activities, and you'll list that here. And then you will total that. And then we would like to see the total grant match for part 1 over here and part 2 over here. Oh, and I do want to highlight that please keep in mind that permit fees will not be waived. So you will need to include those here on the budget form. And that would be under services. You can include that. And if you have any questions on whether or not you will need a permit, just please reach out to me. Now we're going to go through reimbursement. Okay, so the city will reimburse you for grant funds when you submit expense receipts and a reimbursement form. And this can be done multiple times throughout the year. So for example, say your neighborhood was approved for a $3,000 grant and the project involved painting a mural over multiple days throughout the summer. So in June, you went to Home Depot, you picked up paint and other supplies and you submitted, and it was $1,500. So on the Monday after that first day of painting, you can submit that $1,500 receipt to me, and we will get a reimbursement check in the mail as soon as possible. And then say in July, there was another work day, and you put an additional $1,500 on your card, and then you needed to get reimbursed for that right away. So then you can just submit the receipts and the reimbursement form, and then we will get a check out to you that week to get you reimbursed. And I can really walk you through this if you are approved with the grant. And then one more point is grant funds must be spent by the end of the 2022 calendar year, and the expense receipts must be submitted to the neighborhood resources coordinator, which is me, by December 2nd. Okay, now you may be asking yourself, how is my application going to be reviewed? So it will be reviewed by a committee that will include different city staff from different departments. So there are 100 points total. And the first category that they will look at is community impact. And we want to see, does the project have a positive impact on the Englewood community? Does it improve the quality of life for your neighborhood? And what is the benefit of this project? The next is going to be neighborhood participation. We really want to see your neighbors getting together and completing the project together. Want to engage the skills within your neighborhood. How are you reaching out to your neighbors to let them know about the project? How are you going to ask them to volunteer? The third category is connecting neighbors. Think about how this will enhance your neighborhood pride and identity and strengthen connections between neighbors. And then the fourth is project details. We'd like to see a complete application, a budget form filled out, a full timeline, maintenance plan, and just really determining and seeing if your project is ready to go. So here are some project examples. These are just ideas. There are a lot of projects out there that you can come up with. So the first is a community mural. Is there somewhere in your neighborhood that all of your neighbors could get together and paint a community mural, either on the concrete or on the side of some structure in your neighborhood? The next is a bench. Is there an area where individuals in your neighborhood, get together and like to sit and chat? Maybe you could install a bench or two there. A little free library. This would be a great addition to a neighborhood. It's stocked with books for people to use and read, and then return those books when they're done. Are there any is there an area where it needs some green space? Is there somewhere that your neighbors could plant trees? You could look at a neighborhood entryway sign. Take a look. I know there's a lot of dogs in Englewood, so possibly install some pet waste stations. And then you could also install a community neighborhood message board where people could post what's going on in the neighborhood. And it's just a good way to keep updated. Okay, that is the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. My email and phone number is listed here. And then the application can be found at englewoodco.gov/neighborhoods.